Hey guys, Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Today we're going to be talking about what to do if you don't have a gallbladder. And if you want to prevent losing your gallbladder, this will also be applicable to you as well. Before we dive in, please smash the like button. Love to see your comments down below. And again, if you have a family member or friend that could benefit from this, please share this content with them. All right, so let's dive in. So first off, what is your gallbladder? It sits in the upper right-hand quadrant. So midline here, just to the right-hand side. Again, maybe in reverse image, but on this right side here. And it's called Murphy's sign if you have gallbladder pain. So that tenderness in there, someone would have you breathe in, breathe out, and that would be really pain or kind of tender to the touch. Again, usually you may already have pain. You may already have radiating pain to that shoulder area. It may feel like your shoulder is inflamed, or even the other side may even feel inflamed, but that's a lot of times gallbladder. How do you know? Usually it's going to be very specifically kind of lined up with eating meals, especially meals that have higher fat. You may notice your stools become clay colored or blonde colored or float, or excessive skid marks on the toilet seat, excessive wiping. That's due to the fat essentially, not wiping clean, and the fat essentially oil and water separating, and essentially that floating on top. So these are good signs that you can look at to see, is there a fat issue? Because that gallbladder, it can be a little bit close to the stomach. That stomach kind of, if here's the midline, your stomach's on your left-hand side here, right by your breastbone, right underneath the ribs, and they can sometimes cross over midline by a few inches. And so it could feel like you have a gallbladder issue on the right side, even though it's just the end of the stomach crossing over there. So it's very possible. So usually right after a meal, in that first hour, that's going to be more of a sign of gastritis or stomach issue. Usually 90 minutes to 2 hours later, that's where the gallbladder comes out more, because all that food that's mixed up in the stomach, that's all called chyme, that gets released from the stomach down into the small intestine. Now the bicarbonate comes out, the cholecystokinin is released, which then triggers the bile to then contract and produce all that good bile salts to help emulsify that fat. Think of emulsification as like Dawn soap on a greasy dishpan. So that helps break down that fat, makes it more water soluble so it can be absorbed and assimilated. Why is fat important? So first off, all your cell membranes are made up of fat. That's really important. So good, healthy cell membranes, that's how our cells communicate. Good, healthy membrane function is important. So we don't break down that fat, that's a problem. Of course, our fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, they're fat-soluble. So if we don't have good acid and enzyme, because acid and enzyme in the stomach allows that food to be broken up into that nice chyme, that nice acidic chyme then triggers our gallbladder, triggers that cholecystokinin to be produced in the stomach, or from the stomach to the small intestine, and then now that gallbladder contracts. And so if we have inflammation in that gallbladder, or let's say we have stones in that gallbladder, if we contract it, it's like hugging a porcupine. That's a big thing. Now, if we don't eat a lot of fat, here's a big one, then stones can form, because we need to actually it's like wringing out a rag. If you're using the same rag every day to wipe your kid's mess up and you're not wringing it out, you're going to get it moldy. You're going to get smells and odors and bacteria because you're not allowing the junk in there to move out. Same thing with your gallbladder. If you're not contracting that gallbladder every day, those essentially those bile acids can crystallize and stones can start to form. And then it's like hugging a porcupine when one day you eat a bunch of fat. So you can definitely have stones from not eating a lot of fat. You can have stones, or you can have inflammation in that gallbladder area due to inflammatory foods. Gluten, processed foods, soy, processed dairy. These are all going to be more inflammatory foods that can definitely drive an issue. Sometimes even pork and coffee can be a big deal. Again, I only recommend removing those if you are in active gallbladder pain issues. Now, we talk about people that have their gallbladder, people that don't have it. So the first thing we have to look at is, why did you have to have your gallbladder removed? Because odds are those underlying issues are still there, and you may still have inflammation in and around that area. Most of the time, gluten can be a big driving factor. Also, there's some common foods that we'll put a link down to below. We have a gallbladder article on the more common offending foods that are, let's just say, paleo approved, right? They're going to be pork, they're going to be bacon, coffee, onions, cabbage, sometimes even some protein sources. And so these could be things that may be a problem, and it may be good to pull them out for a period of time just to make sure you're okay. Now, typically, if there's any standard American foods, processed, refined, oxidated vegetable oils, we're pulling those out, right? Soy, canola. We want fats that are going to be more avocado, olive on the mono side, or coconut oil. MCT is actually really good because you don't need a lot of bile to be able to break down coconut and MCT. So I like it because it doesn't require a lot of bile acids to break it down. And then, of course, our healthy saturated fats, which are going to be coconut as well, and then our tallows, maybe ghee or butter, and then of course maybe even palm fat as well. So in general though, if we're in an acute flare, we're going to keep the fats a little bit low, focus on good proteins, good vegetables, look at the more common gallbladder offending foods, and try to keep those out of the gates. But again, if we can tolerate fats, we're going to add it in slowly. We're going to add in more bile. Now, if you don't have a gallbladder, guess what? You still need bile. So we're adding in additional bile. We may be adding in things like, if you have a gallbladder, but it's like, let's say, there's stasis that's going on there, it's kind of sludgy, then we're going to be adding things like phosphatidylcholine. We're going to be adding things in like beetroots. We're going to be adding things like taurine. These are going to help provide, let's just say, emulsification and allow the flow of that gallbladder to be better. We may even add in an herb called Shanka piedra to help break down any stones in there. But of course, just taking the stress off the gallbladder, so when we eat fat, now we at least have some exogenous an exogenous bile flow, so our gallbladders now have to produce extra bile. Now again, if we have our gallbladder removed, essentially your gallbladder is now the common hepatic bile duct in the liver. Now the problem with this is you don't have the ability to concentrate bile. That bile will normally concentrate in that gallbladder. It will concentrate, swell up. Then you eat a good fat protein-based meal. That cholecystokinin would be produced and that gallbladder would contract. And it's basically concentrated that bile 15 to 20 times more than just having that common hepatic bile duct be your essential gallbladder. And also, it's just flowing all the time when it's in your common hepatic bile duct. When you have a gallbladder, now it's a punctuated release. Oh, there's fat there, squeeze, now it's being released, where normally it's just this constant drip. And that's why you can easily have bile acid diarrhea if you don't have a gallstone, or I'm sorry, if you don't have a gallbladder, because now it's dripping all the time versus that a punctuated meal with fat there. And so you may have bile acid diarrhea, and you may need a bile salt sequestering compound if you're having a lot of diarrhea and you don't have a gallbladder. So first thing, reasons why you don't have a gallbladder. Inflammatory foods. Inflammatory foods, gluten, processed foods, Neolithic foods, sugar, fructose, anything that's not going to be in a whole food form. Second are going to be the more subclinical foods that could be an issue. Pork, coffee, onions. Again, we'll put a whole link down below to that blog so you can see the actual blog. There could be some healthy foods there. Next, we're not breaking down our food. Enzymes and acids are the key because acids start the whole gallbladder connection of good acidity, good acidic chyme. That causes cholecystokinin when that food goes from the stomach to the small intestine. Gallbladder then contracts. And so good acid, good pH is vitally important. Next are going to be raw materials like taurine, like phosphatidylcholine, and then we can always, add in things like beetroot or Shanka piedra as flowing agents to really help break things down, thin things out. Again, if the gallstone is like a porcupine, if we can smooth it out, then when the gallbladder contracts, it's like, using, sandglass, grabbing sandglass from the beach that's smooth. It's not going to cut you, but regular glass with the shards would cut you. So it's the same thing. Taking the edges off of it and smoothing it out is going to be vitally key. So kind of come back around again. Root underlying causes, foods, poor enzymes, poor acids. If you don't have a gallbladder, now you need bile salt forever. You may even need extra enzymes, especially the enzyme lipase, which is produced by the pancreas to help break down fat. Now you may need more lipase. You may need proteases as well. A good enzyme is usually going to have protease and lipase at very high levels, and you may see some amylase for carbohydrate as well. So we have the foods, we have enzymes, we have acids, we have thinning or emulsifying agents if we have stones and we're trying to thin them out. If we already have our gallbladder removed, a lot of times you may have it removed and you may still have problems with digestion. You may even still have pain in that area because you didn't fix the underlying issue. There could also be primary gallbladder sclerosis in that area due to autoimmune issues, and gluten in foods could be a problem there. So I've seen people that get their gallbladder removed, but there's still inflammation there because there's an autoimmune issue going on, and that happens a lot, and the surgery doesn't even fix the underlying issue. Now, you can run a HydroScan and see how much the flow is of your gallbladder. My whole thing is do not get your gallstone or your gallbladder removed unless you have an acute kind of infection where your white blood cells are elevated. That's when I get a little bit worried. But if you just have some pain and the HydroScan's poor, well, work with a functional medicine doctor and your nutritionist to get the flow improving. Work on digesting and breaking down your fat. Work on diet and lifestyle changes. My recommendation is try not to let this become an acute infection where now you're put into a position where you have to have it removed. And again, there's different degrees of how acute the infection could be, where maybe you could wait, let it come down, work on getting your inflammation down, and then trying again. Again, I'm not your surgeon or your doctor, so talk to your surgeon about it. See if it's safe for you if you want to try some of these things. Make sure it's safe for you to avoid a surgery if you can, and then try some of the natural things and see if you can buy yourself some time to get the inflammation down. So that's just kind of my disclaimer for you. Check with your doctor about it. I'm not your doctor. But again, I understand the physiology really well, probably better than most doctors, because they're only looking at it as, hey, here, there actually is some drugs out there now that are actually bile salts. So those are newer things. So they may give you a bile salt compound. Most don't. Usually a urishadiol, something that can actually break down the stones. Some start to do that, but most just want to take out your gallbladder. But now your digestion is forever altered. And again, if you're a female and you have high levels of estrogen, that can also thicken your bile up too. So you may have to look at your estrogen. Are you estrogen dominant? Are you detoxifying your estrogen? Are you getting lots of phytoestrogens from plastics and pesticides and soy? So you really want to look a little bit deeper of why this is happening. If you don't have a gallbladder, bile support, we're going to be doing HCl, enzymes. Make sure there's lipase in your enzymes. We'll put links down to the products that I specifically use. In my line, we use Liver Supreme. But if we don't have a gallbladder, we may just want just pure bile salt by itself. It just depends what's going on. And then enzymes and acids, and our enzymes are going to have extra lipase and protease too. And we may want to get a stool test done because things like Giardia and H. pylori can also get up in the gallbladder and create inflammation. So you may have an H. pylori infection or a Giardia issue or another bug, another dysbiosis that's causing problems with the gallbladder and with the small intestine. So it's good to look at that. So food, digestive support, flowing agents, things that can break down the stones. We're going to be looking at a stool test. We're going to be looking at dysbiosis. We're going to be looking at low levels of probiotics. All these things are important. Conventional medicine may do a HIDA scan, which may be helpful just to know where you're at. But if you're not acute and your doctor says they're going to give you some time to work on it, then do some of these things and see if you can keep your gallbladder. I've saved hundreds of gallbladders in my career by just doing these simple principles. My just thing is make sure you have the time to do it and it's not acute enough where you're going to cause yourself a major infection. So check with your surgeon or doctor on that one. All right, guys, if you want to dive in deeper, if you want more support on the functional medicine principles and really getting to the root cause of what's happening, there'll be a link down below where you can reach out to my staff and team. We see patients worldwide virtually. If you want that support, we are here for you. And if you enjoy it, please give me a thumbs up, a comment below, and share with family and friends that could benefit. All right, guys, have an awesome day. Take care. Bye.